Good morning, Quackhawks. Today we're going to be talking about hockey, horoscopes, and meritocracy. If you don't have your copy of Outliers book by Malcolm Gladwell, you want to grab that copy right now.
Here's a big chungus. It's a big chungus. It's a big chungus. It's a property song. It's a big chungus. Oh yeah.
I don't know why you guys are still watching.
Now, when we talk about the idea of meritocracy, we have to define that term first. What is a meritocracy? A meritocracy is generally what we believe our systems are created on. It's essentially whatever you do is credited to you, and if you're the best at what you do, you'll get recognized for it, right? I mean, think about school. School is generally considered a meritocracy. You will get straight A's. And then once you're done getting straight A's, you'll get into a really good college. So only those really good colleges are filled with people who get straight A's. And from there, you're going to have more people who are very intelligent, all in the same room together. So the best of the best of the best rise to the top. And that way, when somebody gets straight A's at a place like Harvard or Yale or UC Berkeley, you think to yourself, wow, these people are really, really smart. They've clearly earned this somehow. They've gotten to the point where they have leveled up. They've ranked up to the point where they are super duper smart. That would be the idea of a meritocracy. And you would think to yourself that the people who get the best jobs, the people who have the best lives, have earned that to some extent. You look at people like Jeff Bezos and you say, wow, he's the wealthiest man in the world. If we believe in a meritocracy, we have to understand he must have done something that warranted him having so much money, right? This general belief is how we run our lives. Think about the fact that the majority of the people who are watching this video or that are in my class are honors students, right? You became honors students because of your hard work. While other people were goofing off and not doing their homework, you went home, you worked hard, you studied, and now you're here. Or maybe you had some sort of innate ability. You, in fourth grade, were super smart and you were able to understand something better than other people were. That is your merit. And you brought that to the table. That's what made you capable of getting to the point where you're at now. So when we talk about meritocracy, that's generally referring to the way that we think systems work. We think that systems work by you putting in your effort, and if your effort is good enough, then you rising to the top. We promote the people who are best or most qualified. We give wealth to the people who are best or most qualified. And that seems like a lovely idea. So you can probably guess where I'm going to go with this. It's generally a lie. The idea of a meritocracy would require so many things to be falling into place just so perfectly that it's really silly once we start to peel back that myth and think to ourselves, is there actually a meritocracy here in our education system or in our culture as a whole? And that's where we get to this idea of hockey. Now, Malcolm Gladwell in the book Outliers, he starts with a chapter all about hockey. Looking around people who live here in the Coachella Valley, we don't do a lot of hockey. So this might be a little bit more difficult for you to understand. He also references this in terms of soccer, though. And we have a lot of soccer players here and a lot of soccer fields. So maybe think of it in that way. You have a team. And my son started playing soccer when he was 4. Now, I asked my son if that's what he wanted to do, and he said, yeah, sure, but for the most part, he didn't really get to decide. If I had told him, here are all the options of the different sports that are available to you, he probably would have chosen something like Quidditch or LARPing. There's no way that he would have picked like, yeah, let's just run around and kick a ball when you could go around and pretend to be a wizard, right? Like that's just not going to be his main choice. So I sort of, through the powers of coercion, got him to choose soccer. I said, hey, look, there's this soccer field. Let's go check it out. He starts playing soccer when he's 4 years old, right? And so as a 4-year-old, he's playing with other students, other kids that are the same age, right? And if he was really good, he might be noticed by somebody who's coaching. And he might be picked up for another team where he is then going to be the best of the best in that team and the best of the next team, and so on and so forth. We generally think that somebody starts young, and as they get better or they develop those skills, those natural talents, those merits that they bring to the table, they move on to better and better teams. Maybe he's just physically built for soccer. Now, in my family, we're generally built for swimming, right? But we think of it in the terms of hockey, and here's what we started to notice. By the time that people were 10 years old, they were in these teams, these super advanced teams, and they would get the best coaching. And they had risen to the top through a whole series of basically meritocracy. And so it became strange when people started to look at the rosters of the best teams and they compared their birthdays. It was a weird thing that nobody had really looked at before. And as they looked at it, it became abundantly clear that something was up. And that's where we're going to start talking about horoscopes. For instance, you might generally believe you're a Cancer. I'm a Cancer. I hate being called a Cancer, which is exactly why people call me a Cancer, because apparently Cancers are sensitive. But you might think this somehow defines who you are. The fact that you were born in June or July, the fact that you were born under a certain moon, and these general beliefs are ultimately developed because of actual things that shift within our culture based on when you were born. All of these things that you don't actually see or understand. So all of these hockey players that were born January, February, and March were the highest level hockey players. There was teams that were entirely built off of January, February, and March birthdays, where when it came to October, November, and December, there were nearly zero. Why would that be the case? Why is it that some people are born under a horoscope sign, an astrological sign that just makes them naturally good at hockey? Well, it's not the case, because ultimately a meritocracy didn't exist. What we did was we said, if you are born January 1st of that year, you are available to be part of a team that runs from January 1st all the way to December 31st, right? The entire year, just like the grade that you're in, is made up of all of the people within those birthdays. And so what they realized was when you were 4 years old, if you were born in January, you were a year older than somebody born December 31st. So you're going to be bigger, stronger, and more coordinated. You're going to get noticed, and people are going to say, wow, that person's really good at hockey. Look at how well they beat this person who's basically 3 years old. And then that person would be given extra coaching, put on a special team, and be required to practice more and more and more. And those extra hours of practice, that extra coaching, and that extra encouragement resulted in people being more likely to become star hockey players. Same thing goes for soccer. And same thing goes for my son as I put him in a soccer team. He was relatively young. He's born in December. So he was young for his team, and he was out there staring at butterflies the entire time that the game was going. Now, you might look at your own life and think to yourself, wait, I'm born in December and I'm a star athlete. Why is that the case? This doesn't seem to always work. Well, that's because different systems act differently. Maybe where you were at, the year started in September, and so you being a December birthday doesn't really affect you that much. Or maybe where you were at, the year started in December. Or maybe you got into a younger team and you were older, right? All of those things can affect you. So look at all of the students that are currently in honors classes. You have to ask yourself, how much of that was because you were smart and how much of that is because you were lucky? When were you born? What kind of situation were you born into? Were you born into a family that had books all around the house and that read to you all the time? Can you really say that you've earned your spot in this life? And if you think that you can say that, I ask you to look into all of the contexts in which you were raised. Is it the same as other people that are around you? Why is it that you know the people that you know? Even something as simple as being born in one location surrounded by a certain group of people can change your opportunities. Are you surrounded by people who you think are going to succeed in life? Are you surrounded by people who are struggling? In what ways do you think that affects who you are? There are so many things when we talk about destiny that are entirely outside of our control. So how can I look at the camera right now and tell all of you that I believe that free will is real when so much is outside of our control? We're going to get into that next week. Make sure to grab your copies of Outliers and get ready for a wild ride because that book is amazing. So I'll try and get it through the Sora app. I'll post a link as soon as it's available. With that being said, stomp your feet, clap your flaps, and you yell the quacks now. Woo! Quack. I said quack.